Hollywood has lost a legend. Gene Hackman, the Oscar-winning actor known for bringing Lex Luthor to life in Superman and delivering unforgettable performances in The French Connection and Unforgiven, has passed away at the age of 95. But what investigators found inside his secluded New Mexico mansion was far more shocking than anyone expected. At first, it seemed like a natural passing, an elderly couple found in their home, but soon unsettling details emerged. The front door left open, their bodies in a state that baffled authorities, and a growing list of unanswered questions. Now, officials have reclassified the case as suspicious, launching a deeper investigation into the mysterious deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Was it a tragic accident, an undetected health crisis, or is there something much darker lurking beneath the surface? As more details unfold, we'll examine the evidence, explore the theories, and attempt to uncover the truth behind this shocking Hollywood mystery. The discovery was nothing short of chilling. It started as an ordinary day for two maintenance workers arriving at Gene Hackman's Santa Fe home for routine upkeep. But as they approached the front entrance, something felt off. The door was slightly ajar, an eerie stillness hanging in the air. At first, they assumed the actor and his wife simply weren't home, but stepping inside, they quickly realized this was no ordinary service call. Inside, the house was unnervingly quiet. No voices, no movement, only the distant sound of wind rustling through the desert landscape outside. As they moved cautiously through the entryway, they spotted something alarming. Two dogs roaming freely inside the property. But what sent a chill down their spines was what they found next. A third dog, locked inside a crate, was lifeless. The workers hesitated, their unease growing with each step deeper into the house. Something was terribly wrong. Then, in separate parts of the home, they made the grim discovery. Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were both found dead. Their bodies, in an advanced state of decomposition, suggested they had been there for a significant amount of time. Weeks, maybe even longer. It was a disturbing scene, one that left both workers shaken as they immediately contacted emergency services. When first responders arrived, the unsettling nature of the deaths became even more apparent. Authorities who entered the home were met with the unmistakable scent of decay, the air thick with the passage of time. Hackman's body was found near the back entrance, as though he had collapsed unexpectedly. His cane and sunglasses lay nearby, suggesting he may have been in motion when he fell. On the opposite side of the house, Betsy was found in the bathroom. She was lying near the counter with a prescription pill bottle open beside her. Pills were scattered across the surface, raising immediate questions. Had she overdosed? Was she suffering from a medical condition that required heavy medication? Or was there another, more sinister explanation? The scene baffled authorities. There were no immediate signs of struggle, no broken windows, no forced entry, no evidence of a violent attack. But something didn't add up. If it had been a simple case of natural causes, how had they both perished around the same time? Why had no one noticed their absence for so long? And what had happened to the deceased dog found locked inside the crate? Investigators initially leaned toward a few theories. The first and most immediate possibility was carbon monoxide poisoning. The couple lived in a large home, and a faulty heater or unseen gas leak could have led to their silent deaths. But when fire officials and gas inspectors arrived to assess the property, they found no evidence of leaks or dangerous emissions. That theory was quickly ruled out. Next, the focus turned to a possible medical emergency. Hackman, at 95 years old, had a history of heart issues. Could he have suffered a fatal event, leaving Betsy panicked and unable to get help in time? Or did Betsy herself experience a sudden medical crisis? The presence of pills near her body raised suspicions, but without toxicology reports, there was no way to determine if she had overdosed, been poisoned, or simply collapsed due to natural causes. Then there was the darker possibility. Could foul play have been involved? While no immediate signs of forced entry were found, authorities couldn't ignore the oddities in the case. Why was the front door open? Had someone entered or exited the home before first responders arrived? If this was a crime, Was it a targeted attack, or had someone taken advantage of the isolated nature of their property? There was also the possibility of a tragic but heartbreaking scenario. Could this have been a murder-suicide? Cases where one spouse takes the life of the other before ending their own are rare but not unheard of, especially in situations involving illness, depression, or desperation. But even that theory had inconsistencies. If one of them had taken their own life, why were they found in separate rooms? And why did neither body show any signs of self-inflicted harm? As the investigation continued, one thing became clear. This was no ordinary death. The lack of immediate answers only deepened the mystery, leaving family, friends, and fans wondering what really happened inside Gene Hackman's secluded New Mexico mansion. The autopsy results were meant to provide answers, but instead, they only deepened the mystery surrounding Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's deaths. Initially, investigators hoped for a straightforward explanation. Perhaps old age, an undiagnosed illness, or an environmental factor like carbon monoxide poisoning. But what they found left more questions than solutions. There were no signs of forced entry. The home was undisturbed. No broken locks, no shattered windows, no indications that an intruder had forced their way in. The couple's belongings remained untouched, with no evidence of a robbery or struggle. If someone had entered the house, they had left no trace behind. Physically, neither Gene nor Betsy showed external injuries. No bruises, no wounds, no evidence of an altercation. Forensic teams examined their bodies closely, looking for any indications of foul play, but found none. The cause of death wasn't immediately obvious, but what stood out most to investigators was the state of Betsy's body. She had been found in the bathroom, lying on the floor near the counter. An open prescription bottle was beside her, and loose pills were scattered across the surface. The image painted a haunting possibility. Had she overdosed? While toxicology results were still pending, this detail raised immediate concerns. Had Betsy been struggling with an illness that required strong medication? Had she accidentally taken too much? Or was there a more intentional act at play? If so, how did Gene's death fit into this puzzle? The two were found in completely different rooms, making it unlikely that one had directly witnessed the other's final moments. Authorities initially leaned toward a conclusion of natural causes. Gene, at 95, had a history of heart concerns. It wasn't out of the realm of possibility that he had suffered a fatal medical episode. Betsy, at 63, was significantly younger. But if she had been taking medication, there were many ways things could have gone tragically wrong. However, as more details emerged, investigators began to reconsider their initial assumptions. Then came the biggest revelation. The autopsy confirmed that carbon monoxide poisoning was not a factor. This was a crucial turning point in the investigation. Early speculation had suggested a potential gas leak, but the results showed no traces of poisoning in either body. With that theory ruled out, the case took on an entirely new level of uncertainty. As law enforcement officials pieced together the timeline of events, they faced an unsettling question. If this wasn't carbon monoxide, and there were no signs of foul play, then what had killed Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa? Could two people really die separately, but so close in time, with no apparent connection? The uncertainty extended beyond investigators. Within the family, reactions were mixed. Gene Hackman's daughter, Leslie Ann Hackman, was one of the first to speak out, suggesting that toxic fumes could have been responsible. She told reporters that her father had been in good health, staying active well into his 90s. He had practiced yoga and Pilates, showing no signs of immediate health concerns. The idea that both he and Betsy would pass away at the same time just didn't sit right with her. But others within the family remained skeptical. If Gene had been in good shape, what about Betsy? Was she dealing with an illness in private? Could there have been an undetected issue that led to both their deaths? Close friends and extended family members were stunned. There had been no warnings, no indications that the couple was unwell. Meanwhile, authorities kept searching for clues. The autopsy report ruled out immediate physical trauma, but toxicology tests could take weeks or even months to complete. Until those results were in, there would be no definitive answers. Law enforcement began looking at alternative explanations: an undiagnosed illness, environmental factors, or even something psychological that had been overlooked. Despite the growing list of possibilities, no single theory could fully explain why both Jean and Betsy died at nearly the same time, in different rooms, with no clear cause. As investigators pressed forward, the case remained as puzzling as ever. What had truly happened inside that house? And why did so many crucial details still seem to be missing? Gene Hackman wasn't just an actor. He was a force in Hollywood, a legend whose performances left an indelible mark on cinema. With a career spanning over 5 decades and more than 80 films to his name, Hackman's versatility set him apart from his peers. Whether he was playing a relentless detective, a cunning villain, or a weathered cowboy, he brought an unmatched depth to every role. His breakout moment came in 1971 with The French Connection, where his portrayal of the tough, no-nonsense detective Popeye Doyle earned him his first Academy Award for Best Actor. It was a defining role, one that showcased his ability to blend raw intensity with a sense of realism that made audiences believe every moment he was on screen. He would go on to win another Oscar for Unforgiven in 1992, playing the ruthless sheriff Little Bill Daggett in Clint Eastwood's revisionist Western. It was a role that solidified his legacy, proving he could command the screen with a quiet menace, just as effectively as he could with explosive energy. But, to a generation of moviegoers, Hackman was forever remembered as the iconic Lex Luthor, Superman's arch-enemy in the original Superman films. His take on the character was sharp, charismatic, and cunning, making him one of the most beloved villains in comic book movie history. But despite his success, Hackman was never one for the Hollywood lifestyle. He was known for his aversion to fame, keeping his private life largely out of the spotlight. In 2009, he officially stepped away from acting, citing health concerns and a desire for a quieter life. After decades in the business, he retired to Santa Fe, New Mexico, with his wife, Betsy Arakawa. There, he pursued his other passions, writing, painting, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life away from the cameras. Even in retirement, his presence in Hollywood was undeniable. His films remained classics, studied by aspiring actors and filmmakers. He received numerous Lifetime Achievement Awards, and every so often, fans would catch a rare glimpse of him in public. He was known to be gracious but firm about his decision to leave acting behind, once stating in an interview that he had no regrets about walking away from the industry. News of his passing sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Almost immediately, tributes poured in from some of the biggest names in the industry. Clint Eastwood, who had worked with Hackman on Unforgiven, released a heartfelt statement, calling him one of the most authentic actors of his generation and a dear friend who will be deeply missed. Morgan Freeman, who starred alongside Hackman in Under Suspicion, described him as a master of his craft and an actor who never wasted a moment on screen. Gwyneth Paltrow, who appeared with him in The Royal Tenenbaums, shared a touching tribute on social media, posting a photo of them together with a simple broken heart emoji, a nod to the profound impact he had on those who worked with him. But it wasn't just Hollywood mourning his loss. Fans around the world took to social media to express their grief. For many, Hackman represented a golden era of filmmaking, a time when performances felt real, powerful, and deeply human. Messages flooded in, remembering his most iconic roles, his sharp wit, and his ability to bring complex characters to life in a way few actors could. His passing marked the end of an era. He had stepped away from the public eye years ago, but the love for his work had never faded. Even in death, Gene Hackman's legacy remained as strong as ever, a testament to his talent, his dedication, and the indelible mark he left on the world of cinema. But while fans and Hollywood alike grieved the loss of a legend, the mystery surrounding his final days only deepened. How could a man known for his resilience, his strength, and his sharp mind simply vanish into silence without anyone knowing for weeks? As tributes poured in, investigators were still searching for answers. What had truly happened inside that house? And was there more to the story than met the eye? The circumstances surrounding Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's deaths have left investigators and the public grappling with a series of unsettling questions. As more details surface, theories have emerged, each one attempting to explain how the beloved Hollywood icon and his wife could have both died in their home without anyone noticing for so long. But no single explanation fits all the strange details of this case, leaving many to wonder, was there something more sinister at play? One of the first details that raised eyebrows was the open front door. When the maintenance workers arrived, they found it ajar, an eerie sign that something was off before they even stepped inside. If the couple had been deceased for days or even weeks, who or what had left the door open? Could it have been an oversight, a simple mistake in their final moments? Or did someone else enter the home before authorities arrived? Some investigators initially speculated that this could indicate a break-in. However, there were no signs of forced entry. Nothing had been taken. If an intruder had entered, what was their purpose? Did they stumble upon the bodies and leave in a panic? Or, more disturbingly, was this someone who had something to hide? With no clear evidence of a robbery or struggle, the possibility of an outside party being involved remained murky, but couldn't be completely ruled out. Then, there's the unsettling theory of a murder-suicide. Could one of them have taken the other's life before ending their own? In some cases, when couples face declining health, depression, or overwhelming stress, they make an unthinkable decision together. But even this theory has glaring holes. For one, they were found in separate rooms, with no clear signs of violence. Typically, in cases of murder-suicide, a note is left behind, a final message to explain the decision. No such note was discovered, and neither body bore any obvious wounds that would suggest foul play. If violence wasn't a factor, was it something more tragic? A fatal medical emergency that spiraled out of control? Betsy was found in the bathroom, an open bottle of prescription pills beside her, with loose pills scattered around. Was this an accidental overdose? Had she taken medication to ease pain or anxiety, only for it to have fatal consequences? And then there's Gene, found near the back door, his cane and sunglasses nearby. Had he suffered a fall? At 95, a sudden loss of balance could have easily led to a head injury or fatal complication. But if he had collapsed and been unable to get help, how did Betsy's death fit into the picture? Did she pass away first, leaving him alone and unable to care for himself? Or had she discovered his body and, in a moment of grief, taken medication in distress? One of the most chilling aspects of the case was how investigators described the scene, almost as if time had stopped inside the house. The level of decomposition suggested they had been there for a significant period, unnoticed. It raised an unsettling question. How long had they really been gone? The fact that two of their dogs were still alive added another layer of complexity. It meant they hadn't been dead for months, but likely for weeks. However, the discovery of a third dog, deceased and locked inside a crate, was deeply troubling. Had that dog starved to death while the other two survived? If so, what did that say about the timeline? Had they been deceased just long enough for the remaining pets to suffer, but not long enough for them all to perish? There was no simple answer to any of it, and as investigators combed through their medical histories, personal communications, and any possible clues left behind, speculation continued to grow. Was it truly just a tragic series of medical events? Did Betsy unknowingly take a fatal dose of medication only for Gene to collapse days or even hours later? Or was something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? The lack of clear evidence only fueled more questions, and with no official cause of death yet determined, the mystery surrounding Gene Hackman's final days remains as haunting as ever. As investigators dig deeper into the mysterious deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, they are faced with a growing number of unanswered questions. With no immediate signs of forced entry, foul play, or a clear cause of death, authorities are now shifting their focus to less obvious clues. Their phone and email records, potential witness accounts, and the toxicology reports that could finally reveal what really happened in their final moments. One of the first steps in the investigation was to examine any signs of distress or unusual activity in the days leading up to their deaths. Authorities have been reviewing Hackman and Arakawa's phone records and emails, searching for any last messages, calls for help, or signs that something may have been wrong. Did they reach out to anyone? Were there medical concerns they hadn't shared with friends or family? Or did their communication abruptly stop, signaling that something unexpected occurred? So far, no clear evidence of an emergency call or distress signal has surfaced. If something had gone wrong inside the house, it appeared they hadn't reached out to anyone, at least not in a way that left an obvious trace. However, investigators are still combing through data, looking for anything unusual in their communication patterns that might shed light on their final days. Beyond digital records, authorities have also turned to neighbors and potential witnesses. One of the most troubling aspects of this case is just how long it took for their bodies to be discovered. Despite Gene Hackman's fame, he and Betsy lived a quiet life in their secluded Santa Fe home. But even in an isolated area, it's unusual for a well-known couple to disappear without anyone noticing. Neighbors have reported that they hadn't seen the couple in weeks, some even longer. No deliveries, no visitors, no signs of daily activity. It's unclear when exactly someone last saw them alive, making it even harder to establish a timeline. Authorities have been questioning people in the area, hoping someone might recall a detail that seemed insignificant at the time, but could now be a crucial piece of evidence. Did anyone hear strange noises coming from the house? Was there a visitor in the days leading up to their deaths? Was their home truly as undisturbed as it seemed? Or had someone been there without raising suspicion? While the search for external clues continues, one of the most anticipated pieces of evidence remains locked inside the bodies themselves: the toxicology reports. If either Gene or Betsy had any substances in their system, it could provide a crucial answer. Investigators are looking at a range of possibilities: a fatal overdose, accidental poisoning, or even a reaction to medication that could have led to an unexpected health crisis. The presence of prescription pills near Betsy's body raises further suspicions. Were they hers? Had she taken an excessive dose? And if so, was it intentional, accidental, or a medical emergency that spiraled out of control? If toxicology reports reveal a high concentration of medication in her system, it could point to overdose as a potential cause. But if no drugs are found, or if the results are inconclusive, it could send investigators back to square one. Similarly, Hackman's physical condition remains a major question. He was 95, an age where health complications are common. But according to his daughter and those close to him, he was still active, maintaining a steady routine. Did he suffer an undetected heart attack or stroke? Did he collapse unexpectedly, leaving Betsy in distress and unable to get help? Or did something else play a role? Something that hasn't yet been uncovered? Unfortunately, toxicology reports take time, sometimes weeks or even months. Until those results come in, many theories remain just that: speculation. Investigators are being cautious, keeping all possibilities open. They have assured the public that no detail will be overlooked. But until the science provides more concrete answers, the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa remain an unsolved mystery. With so many unanswered questions, the world is left waiting. Was this simply a tragic and unfortunate end for a legendary actor and his beloved wife? Or is there still more to this story waiting to be uncovered? As law enforcement continues their work, one thing is certain: this case is far from closed. While Gene Hackman remained active well into his later years, his health had been a concern for decades. Even as he kept a low profile in retirement, there were warning signs, moments throughout his life that hinted at the possibility of an underlying condition that may have played a role in his mysterious passing. Hackman's first major health scare came in 1990 when he underwent an angioplasty, a procedure designed to open blocked arteries and prevent a potential heart attack. At the time, he had been experiencing chest pains, and doctors warned that he was dangerously close to suffering a serious cardiac event. The procedure was successful, but it served as an early indication that his heart required careful monitoring. Despite this, he continued acting for nearly 2 more decades, taking on some of his most iconic roles even after the surgery. However, as the years went on, the stress of the industry and his health concerns eventually led him to step away from Hollywood. By 2009, he officially retired, stating that he no longer wanted to put his body through the physical and emotional demands of filmmaking. But his retirement didn't mean a completely quiet life. Hackman remained active, engaging in hobbies like writing, painting, and cycling, until another incident in 2012 put his health back in the spotlight. At the age of 81, Hackman was struck by a car while riding his bicycle in Florida. The impact sent him to the hospital, and at first, there were serious concerns about his condition. Authorities reported that he had not been wearing a helmet at the time of the accident, making the situation even more dangerous. Miraculously, he survived with only minor injuries. His representative assured the public that he had made a full recovery. But it was yet another reminder of how fragile life could be, especially at his age. As he grew older, Hackman kept an increasingly private lifestyle. Friends and family described him as content in his later years, enjoying the peaceful life he had built with his wife, Betsy, in New Mexico. But while he remained mentally sharp and physically active for a man of his age, the reality was that at 95, even the smallest medical issue could become life-threatening. Could an undetected health problem have contributed to his death? Some believe that Hackman may have suffered a fatal cardiac event, possibly passing away in his sleep or collapsing suddenly. If that were the case, it could explain why there were no signs of struggle, no forced entry, and no apparent foul play. But that still left the question of Betsy. If Hackman had died of natural causes, why had she also passed away at nearly the same time? Had she suffered a medical emergency of her own? Or was her death the result of something else entirely? With no immediate answers and the investigation still ongoing, many are left wondering whether this was simply the tragic ending of a long life, or if there's more to the story that has yet to be uncovered. Until toxicology reports and further examinations are completed, the full picture remains unclear. One thing, however, is certain. Gene Hackman's passing marks the end of an era, leaving behind not just a legacy of legendary performances, but also a mystery that continues to captivate the world.